I don't ever want a senior to think that they have limited options. I can only go do this, or I can only do that, or the best I can do is this. I think seniors need to know that there's a lot of wonderful life ahead, and there's a lot of great opportunity ahead for them.
Growing community, one conversation at a time, brick by brick.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Brick by Brick, the podcast where we build community one conversation at a time, brick by brick. I am your host, Brad the Brick Critchfield, and today I have a very special guest, Ryan Smith, Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Ryan Smith. I always forget, do I get real, when you leave off the doctor, man, do you get like that when people leave off the doctor?
Not at all. I'm not one of those doctors.
All right, I would totally. You put those letters on my name. Ryan, thanks for coming in.
A pleasure. Great to be here.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am the Deputy Superintendent in the Bellflower Unified School District. I've been in our district for a little over a year now and love every minute of it. I get to work with a fantastic superintendent, get to work with a superb board, and our executive cabinet, our principals, teachers, and everybody else in between. So it's been a really great experience. Spend a lot of time in HR, dabble a little bit in business, support special ed, support ed services and instruction. So it really is a great role and a great position.
What do you like about the job the most?
The people. We get to work with really great people, and I feel like we have a really great team. As Deputy Superintendent, a lot of my interactions are at the district level with respect to our cabinet, our board, our superintendent, obviously, and directors, and I really enjoy that. But what I enjoy the most are the people that I know at the sites. Our principals are fantastic. We have great teachers. We have great classified staff. I enjoy that part of it the most.
Yeah. What do you, since you came in, 2 years ago? Almost?
June of 24.
June of 24. Okay. And I've seen a lot of the changes you've made that have been very positive. What would you say is the biggest accomplishment from like coming in, seeing where problems needed to be solved and where we are today? What's been the biggest turnaround?
I'm proud of a lot of the work. I got to be honest. I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is being able to be, as an executive cabinet team and in my specific role as a deputy, being in true service to the Board of Education and to its vision for where it wants the district to go and what it wants some of the big accomplishments to be. So, for example, I'm really proud that we're finally at a point where the Mayfair Field is going to happen. It's obviously been a really, really long time coming, and lots of blood, sweat, and tears. But it came together. And if you remember that journey, I mean, you know the journey even better than I. But if you think back to it, I mean, it really came together pretty quick once it was kind of like, hey, we're hitting the go button.
I'm never going to agree with anything that says quick in Mayfair Field.
Gotcha. I feel that.
Because I was even looking through board books from 23 and 24 and even like the process. And some of it's out of our control when it comes to the county, when it comes to all the other things. But man, it's been a long
run. It has. But I'll never forget our meeting. It was January. I mean, really, when we came together, we were in the superintendent's office, pulled out the map. Let's talk about what exactly is this project. What are the expectations going to be?
To your credit, that meeting was very important. I mean, it's like, all right, what are we doing? Because I remember you, and correct me if I don't remember correctly, but you were like, all right, you're saying stadium, field renovation. Let's talk about the specifics. And so in that meeting, what became apparent to me was that those conversations weren't happening. And sometimes as a board member, you're making a lot of assumptions, right? Like you know what's happening at the board, you know what the direction is, but then you assume that those conversations are happening every day. Like when we're not there, when we're at our full-time jobs, you assume that stuff's happening. But you stepped in, you were like, all right, let's lay it all out. And I was like, great, let's do it. I thought it was already kind of happening, but we're here now. And so, okay, to your point, from that point on, I do feel like the ball was actually rolling.
Absolutely. And again, it's difficult in districts, and total respect for your role as a board member, because you play such an important role, you and your colleagues on the dais, in terms of establishing vision, establishing expectations, but you are really reliant on the superintendent and the superintendent's team to bring all that to life. And there's got to be really good symbiosis, really good relationship, good communication to move all of those things forward. And I just remember with that particular project feeling like in January, like, okay, now I can feel the momentum pushing in the right direction, and between our CBO, between our general counsel. Next thing you know, we had got the CEQA process going. We got better architectural plans going.
Well, I think even the architect was it, because they had made those plans
years ago,
10 years, 12 years ago. So I think even they were kind of, okay, we're talking about it again. But I think even when they found out, oh, we're serious about it this time, with this board is actually going to move forward with this thing, I saw them kind of click into.
Absolutely. So something I'm really happy about. I'm also really happy that we have some good momentum going around pursuing a future bond. I'm really, really hopeful that we'll have something on the ballot that the board will support that in 26. I believe it will, because I feel like that's so important. Our facilities really could use some extra TLC.
Well, dude, we had a freaking rat in the room last night.
Yeah, that was far from great. We had a special visitor.
Dude, it was a big one.
It was a big one.
It was a big one.
That was a first.
In the middle of the board meeting, man, it's embarrassing, but it's kind of like, all right, well.
Well, that's not good enough.
Well, the rat's going to be our mascot for the bond.
No,
it's going to be. It's
going to be
no. There's a campaign around this rat. It's like, you got to support this bond. Check out this rat.
Well,
put a hat on him. I'll Photoshop it. It'll be great.
Well, I feel like we've got good momentum there. We're getting things in place to make a really good run in November.
I think we'll be in a better position than we were last time. I was devastated when we didn't go out for it last time, because I think 99% of the bonds actually passed. And there is a political science to it, man. Like when you're in a general election, like you're just more likely to pass. This bond, even though I think the community sees that we need it, the community generally supports bonds. We have one of the lowest bond debt ratios than any other district out there. We've been very, very good with our money and how we spend it. And I think people are becoming more knowledgeable of the fact that districts aren't funded to build new buildings or even maintain the buildings. So I think there's an educational piece there, and I think people get it. I think we will have support. But this time, at least, people will have the ability to vote for it, where last time it didn't even get past the boards, or where people couldn't really weigh in on it.
I'm excited about the opportunity.
Dude, I'm super excited.
And there's silver linings to everything. Look, I think it would have been successful in 24.
Yeah.
But I'm also very optimistic it will be successful in 2026.
It's going to be a lot of work.
And I see a lot of work in the future, just like you said. But I think it's the right work. I think it does give us an opportunity to interface with our teachers, our staff, about what's really going to be, how do we want our campuses to look? What do we want in our classrooms? What's the classroom of the future? How do we address really important infrastructure? And I think our community will really appreciate that effort too. So yeah. I think it's going to come together really well. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. I think the focus is there, and I think one thing I learned, just the few short years I've been on the board, is it really is helpful when you know where the board wants to go, even a year, 2 years from now, because it really helps, guide the ship. Where if you don't know which way the board's going on stuff, it's how much work do we put into this if we don't even know if this is something the board will support. So I think we've come to a much better place. Overall, to where I think we're really understanding like more of the unified vision, and it just helps everybody just be more efficient and have a little bit more confidence in the work that they're putting in.
Agreed. And I think we have the right team in place to make it all happen as well. Between the district leadership and the partners that we have in place when it comes to pursuing this work. We have a great firm that's working with us on our facilities master plan, a really solid one. We have a great bond counsel. We have a great financial advisor. I think all of the pieces are going to come together really well, and it's going to be even better than the previous bond we were considering could have been anyway. I think it's going to be a great opportunity as it comes together.
No, I think it's great, man. I think there's a lot of good work happening. What's one thing, and let's zoom out a little bit. Yeah. What's one thing you think that public education is getting wrong, and not just not BUSD specifically, but public education in general? What do you think we're missing right now that we need to lean into and be at the forefront of as a district? The bigger problem that's not being addressed.
I think one of the things that's critical is really listening to the community. And what I mean by that is really welcoming multiple perspectives on issues and on matters of concern to the community. There are so many things that, schools are a microcosm of what's happening in the communities they serve.
Yeah.
And there's so many opinions about a variety of topics. And I think sometimes it's really easy for a parent or a family member to feel like their voice might not matter or their opinion on a particular issue might not be heard. And I'm a pretty firm believer that, and this is why we have boards of education, there's supposed to be a community to school district connection, and that connection is the board.
Right.
And that's why I feel like boards are so critical. And parents really, really want to know that their voices matter and their opinions count on whatever topic it may be. And sometimes they might have, opinions that cut against the grain of, perhaps a broader political discourse or a broader school of thought. But why should that be discounted? And so I think one thing that education in general needs to do better is when we say we value all opinions, I think we really in general need to really mean that. Yeah. And really show that we mean that. And I'm not speaking about our district. I feel like we do that. And I know many of my colleague districts do that as well. But I think that's something that frustrates the public and frustrates parents greatly. The other thing that I think is something that we have to think differently about is choice. When you talk to parents, school choice is really important to them. And that's not always a popular issue from us as educators, in terms of, what school choice means. Does it mean charter schools? Does it mean different kinds of schooling opportunities for students? Does it mean more homeschooling? Does it mean more independent study? Does it mean private schooling? But that's another piece that when you talk to parents really value choice and choice in their students' education. And I think sometimes as educators, we can be really closed-minded when it comes to respecting how parents feel about that and then doing what we can to establish choices.
Right. Because it can be seen as a threat, right? Threat to your funding.
Correct.
And so to the first point, I think we do in BUSD have a really strong ear to the ground with our board.
Agreed.
I personally try to answer every single email. I think I do. And I think there is a strong community voice, and I think that the byproduct of that has been good decisions by the board and a lot of clear direction, like understanding. And then with the choice, I think, and you focused on this a lot, like the importance of having like a model school, having a magnet school, doing things differently, like make your district the one that not only do you pay taxes to, but that's the one you want to go to. I'm a big believer in competition, free market. Like I want the district that they're in to be the one that they're like, I'm glad I'm here. I bought this house so I could be in your district. So to compete with other districts, I'm super competitive. And I know a lot of us are. And I think that's what drives me to want to do things differently, to do new things. And, doing new things in the public realm isn't always the easiest thing to do. But I think we're doing some of it. When we went on the trip to San Diego and like looking at the programs and the school sites that they have where they're doing things differently and having good results, I think bringing some of that to BUSD is going to be really important. And then also like with our career tech, I'm president of Cal Apps this year. We talk a lot about AI. We talk a lot about, doing things, that are going to be needed in the future and doing them fast. And I think that's where Cal Apps is a real benefit to us because we can move a little bit faster having that partnership with Cal Apps in trying new pathways. But that's something that I think draws people and makes them want to go to your district.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And I'm glad you mentioned the visit to San Diego. That was such an important one. We had a broad team. I think we brought almost 30 people, board members,
Yeah, it was a lot.
principals, directors. It was a pretty powerful visit. And every school, just almost every school, I think only one, every school is a public school. Only one charter. Charter schools are public schools. But I mention that because it kind of gives an example of you can create choice and you can create options within an existing school district, within an existing public school district, with the schools you got and the people you got. You can do it. It can be done. There's great models out there. And parents really appreciate that. If the traditional comprehensive high school or the traditional looking elementary school was for every parent, then we wouldn't have a need for these other types of opportunities and options. There is a need. Parents really want to be able to feel like if their student needs a particular way or a particular approach or a certain offering, parents really feel strongly that that should be available to them. And so do I. And so I'm really excited about where we're going as a district. We have our new superintendent, we have our board, and I think the leadership is there for us to be able to step back through a really comprehensive strategic planning process and think about what do we want for our future and what do we want our schools to look like. And to me, if I were to ever just kind of close my eyes and think about it, I would see traditional models and I'd see completely out of the box models. And I'd see everything in between to be able to say we have a little bit of something for everybody. Right. And I would see our parents and families responding really well to that.
Keeping the eyes closed and just kind of like envisioning what would one of the schools look like to you? Because you were a big part of Odyssey opening up in Lakewood, right? Yeah. And like what would learning from that experience and then seeing what BUSD has and where we could go, what would one of those schools look like? Just kind of off the cuff.
Boy, I would love to see a small secondary school that's focused on STEM or STEAM, that's focused entirely on project-based learning experiences. I would love to see a school option that thinks about career readiness completely differently. For example, there's some really great models. Odyssey is one of them, where students become career ready by working. They actually leave their school to go and do internships during the school day for a big part of the year. That was something that was a real proud partnership at Odyssey with the city of Lakewood, for example, and other agencies.
Chamber of Commerce was
absolutely.
I was chairman of the chamber for a few years, so that's how I got the tour of Odyssey and kind of got introduced.
So just those kinds of outside the box opportunities, which aren't even really outside the box anymore, but they're different. And so I would see those kinds of things. I'd also begin thinking about our facilities in different ways. One of the challenges that not only Bellflower has, but a lot of different districts have, are school districts are shrinking in California. Yeah. Not everywhere. There's certain parts of the state that are still growing. But by and large, in suburban and urban centers, school districts and the student population is reducing. So we have to think differently then about our spaces where we have schools. And sometimes the thought process is, well, we might need to consolidate a school. Yeah. And then what do you do with it? And so now there's different things people are considering. Do you create workforce housing? There's lots of challenges with that. And there's lots of equity issues with creating workforce housing.
You also never get it back.
And there you go. And that's the other piece. Do you sell a property off?
Well, I think our district has done that in the past. I know we have. And I don't think it's looked back on as like, oh, that was a great decision. And population changes over time. What
happens when it boomerangs back?
A few years ago, I'd seen like a 5-year study, and it was like, oh, it's going to keep going down, and we're in big trouble. And I think last year, and if we had the producer here, I'd have him pull it up. But there was a more recent study that showed like in, I think 5 years from now, it's actually starting to go back up. So in 8-9 years following that trend, we would probably need that space back. So you never want to put yourself in a position where you're not going to be able to get it back. So whether it's like, I forgot what it's called, like a lease back or whatever, you're talking decades and decades before you can even get it back. And the amount of income that you get for a lot of the properties is compared to the budget and what it takes to run a district is not as, it's not going to infuse so much money to where it's a great choice either. I'm still learning on the, and I think it's something that, you know, we're going to have to like have a lot of conversations
Agreed.
about in the upcoming years. But I have more questions than answers and no real strong opinion on what's the best. But we're going to have to do a lot of research and really weigh out the pros and cons of it, because you're right. We do run into a lot of problems by running so many small schools.
And so, you know, if you think about it, because I agree with you and I share every one of your concerns about some of the more traditional options districts face. So there's also opportunity to think about what you do with campuses in a different way. So for example, it could be the perfect opportunity to create some kind of center that is CTE focused or arts focused or whatever you want your focus to be, that becomes a district asset that students from across your school district push into.
And there's so many, like, there's so many auxiliary benefits. Is that the right way to say it? We spend a lot of money just having our students perform at different facilities. Like when I see those price tags, if we had something where we had a more central performing arts center where everybody could use it, I mean, that would save us money in ways that we're not even thinking about right now. And then even with CTE, like having a place where you could do more workforce development, more hands-on learning, where we're kind of centralizing that. I think there's so many options.
So let me share an example of that. Our assistant superintendent, Bonnie Carter, and I, we went down and visited Encinitas Union School District, North County, San Diego area. And they have a 10-acre property that was supposed to be a school. And I guess after the economy melted down in 2008, there wasn't a need to put a school there anymore. Either the population that was moving in as they were growing at the time wasn't moving in with enough children to sustain it, or economic reasons, or both. I'm not entirely sure. But they took that property and essentially turned it into an incredible farm lab. So it's a 10-acre beautiful farm.
How big is 10 acres?
Pretty big.
What's an acre?
Well, I don't know exactly.
Again, if I had my producer,
if we had ChatGPT handy, or had an agent handy, we'd be able to do that. And they have this beautiful property where all of the district students push into it multiple times a year for hands-on environmental learning, sustainability lessons, farm to table. And that farm also produces not only amazing lessons for students about how life works, but they're also feeding the district off of the farmland too.
Yeah.
A pretty neat way of thinking of it. And there's other models like that as well. There's other models. There's one school in the Bay Area, Los Altos Union High School District, where they have a performing arts or a media arts school on one of their comprehensive high school campuses. And the students from the other high schools push into that for part of their day. They spend half the day at their regular high school and half the day there. It's a district asset. So there's lots of different ways to think about those kinds of things. And I get really excited about that because the possibilities are endless. It's just a matter of, do you have the will, and also do you have the resources to make it happen?
Yeah, I think the resources is a big part of it. I think the will is there.
I do too.
I really do. And I feel like we test some of those things. We have our farm, I want to call it a bin.
The freight farm.
So our freight farm, and I believe it's still happening, but they supply the lettuce to our schools, right?
Such a great example.
Yeah. And so I know that there's the interest, and we've seen the proof of concept with something. Now it's scaling it and really saying like, okay, we're going to invest and we're going to go all the way in. I think that's the part where, there's so many different options. It's like, which one are we going to lean all the way in on? Yeah, I think with the new facilities master plan, the groundwork for the bond, all these things are going to make very clear what the options are. And I think that we're going to have some really good conversations about, which direction to go there. But the great thing is that everything's possible. And, one of the things when I first got on the school board, I feel like Every time there was an idea, and don't get me wrong, not all ideas are equal. I have bad ideas all the time.
I'm in that club.
I'll have a couple just in the sit down, I'm sure. But when I first got on, it was every idea for the most part was met with all of the reasons why that's not going to happen, and it kind of built this this thing in me where I felt like I had to fight kind of the like fight through all that pushback to say, hey, and really it wasn't even I was so confident in the idea. It's just no, I'm arguing the fact that it is possible. So now I'm going down this whole road, like putting in all this effort just to show you, no, it was possible. So next time, don't try to just tell me it's not possible, because I'm going to fight that every time. Tell me why it's not a good idea, or tell me what idea is better that still serves the problem that I'm presenting. And if the problem I'm presenting isn't a problem, explain to me why it's not a problem. Like, but possibility, it's always there.
Absolutely. And this is another reason why boards are important. So you bring a specific lens to the dais, right? You've owned a business, right?
Yeah.
You know, you also have an education background because you work at LBCC.
Yeah.
But in education, sometimes we get trapped in our own thinking about things and in our own processes, in our own systems. And so sometimes it's hard for us to realize that, you know, there's an entire world and way of doing things beyond the education realm, in the private sector, in industry. And there's so much that we can learn and bring back, and it might not be able to completely mirror it, but you can do some things differently. And sometimes it goes back to, you know, sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And that's why that perspective that you share and the others and your colleagues on the dais share is so important. But the other part that goes with that is you do have to have a really strong will to be able to question, well, why do we do it this way? Why are we doing it this way? What's forcing us down this specific road?
We've really changed that, right?
100%.
The amount of times I heard, well, this is our past practice in every area of governance, that's really changed. I think we kind of stomped that out to just saying, well, this is how we've always done it. Now it's, you know, changing past practices for best practices, and I think we've done that in so many different areas. I mean, we could probably rattle on a whole list of things that we've really shifted to more best practices rather than just because of the way we've done it. But that's a real problem. And really my I don't want to say fear, but my kind of observation at one point, this is pre-you, this is pre, you know, a lot of people, it was, I always felt like there was, like, a board member can have an idea, right? And some of them are shit. They really are.
Notice I'm not going to nod.
Don't nod. Don't nod. I'll freeze frame it.
Kidding.
I'm talking about my ideas, by the way. And I think not just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. But there was always this feeling of, like, if even it doesn't take a lot of work to have an idea, but the board member is not the one doing the work. So sometimes I always felt it was the unwillingness to do the work to make it happen. Therefore, I'm going to squash the idea rather than, because I don't want the extra burden on my work because it's a job. And I don't feel that at all anymore, which is really nice.
Good, because that's not how it should be.
Yeah, no, this is the first period of time on the board where I feel like everyone's working and doing everything that they not just what they need to be doing, but going at 100%. And it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. There's no, like, I don't feel like anybody's dragging their feet. And it's a good feeling because that opens up all the possibility in the world.
Absolutely. And change is not easy. You know,
Right.
Change is difficult, and it goes back to the willingness to do it. Because you touched on something that's just incredibly important, is that taking the time to ask the questions, taking time to seriously challenge, well, why are we doing it this way? Like, okay, let's not do it that way. Let's just switch it.
Yeah.
It takes courage because, these are large, complex, bureaucratic systems. You'd think, you'd think schools would be easy, and they're not. These are really complex systems. And when you kind of push on them and you really try to challenge or kind of change approaches that have kind of been on autopilot for years and years and years, sometimes the system will push right back.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's kind of a direct pushing, and sometimes it's indirect or somewhere in between. And that's the challenge of leadership, though. Leadership really has to be focused on continuously improving. And you'll see that as in a lot of places as a core value. You'll hear that in a lot of speeches. But the best districts and the best leaders really do embody that continuous learning and continuously trying to get better value. And that's where you see the greatest success. And I personally am striving to be that way. It's a challenge. You have to work on it. But if we're going to really be great for kids, we have to constantly be looking at ourselves and be willing to change and be willing to try something different.
Totally agree. What's the hardest grade?
Ooh, you're talking to a high school person. So for me, any elementary grade is difficult for me.
Well, I'll put a little bit more on the quick. From the student's perspective, what do you think is the hardest grade to get through?
Ooh,
didn't know I was gonna have all these zingers, huh?
What I would say, I'm going to answer it this way. I think any of the transition grades are the hardest grades.
So for ours would be what, 7th?
Yeah, in our system it would be 6th to 7th. We have really one major transition, and it would be that. But even then, I would say the transition from 8 to 9 is still pretty significant. Why? Even though they happen to be on the same campus. Because when you get into high school, the clock starts ticking and the credits start counting.
Yeah.
So all of our school is critical. All of our school is real valuable in the experiences that students have. But in high school, you get 4 years. You're on your final 4-year part of the journey. And to be able to get a diploma means there's certain courses you must complete satisfactorily. And then to be able to be qualified for the college of your choice, there's certain things that you have to meet. And then developmentally, going from 8th grade to 9th grade is a really, really big step. And students typically have a hard time with that. Something that a good friend of mine taught me was this phrase: if you win 9th grade, you win. In other words, if you can get your kids across the finish line with pretty much all of their credits, good grades, and pretty decent habits with attendance and behavior, you don't have to worry about the next 3. But developmentally, for the most part, it's just a really tough challenge. And when you see other school districts, the move from elementary to secondary, middle school, is also a real big challenge because the schools get bigger.
Yeah. They
have more teachers. And then developmentally, there's a big challenges between high school students.
Switching friends and going to different groups and starting sports. Now you're hanging out with these people.
It's really hard.
Social emotionally, it's really difficult. You can go astray. I transferred high schools after 9th grade to 10th grade, and that was really difficult.
I would imagine it would be. Absolutely. Any kind of change of school is hard. It's probably easier on younger kids. But at the secondary level, breaking those cliques and friend groups and things like that,
especially when
is not
friends
easy.
go to different high schools, and they're your best friend, but now they're going to this high school. Now you got to make new friends. That's a struggle.
So you have to be really thoughtful about what transition students make. So as they enter into now a much larger campus with all these different students that they don't know because they're coming in from different schools, you have to be really thoughtful about those transitions and how you support those students, how you welcome them, how you monitor them, how you support them, not just them, but also their parents too. Because the other thing that kind of challenges sometimes students as they progress and get older is a lot of times, and it's totally natural, parents kind of feel, well, he's in high school now, I don't have to worry about him as much.
Yeah.
And actually you do.
Yeah.
You really have to
That's-
pay
that's
even
weird.
more attention to your ninth grader and your 10th grader than you did a year ago or 2 years ago. It's so critical. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times it's helping parents with kind of understanding how to support their student and how to support their student in different ways. You know, the way you support your 10th grader is different than how you support your third grader.
Right. Right. All right. What's from a administrator lens, from a deputy superintendent lens, what's one thing you would want students to know in high school? Well, let me be more specific. From the deputy superintendent lens, from an administrative point of view, what's one thing that our seniors need to know this year?
You're asking some solid questions.
Thanks, man.
We didn't do any prep for this.
No prep. No prep.
I think our seniors need to know that the possibilities are endless, and I hope that doesn't sound cliche. Let me tell you exactly. It does. It probably does. Of course.
does.
Of course, when I say that,
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm going, "This is cliche." I don't ever want a senior to think that they have limited options. I can only go do this, or I can only do that, or the best I can do is this. I think seniors need to know that there's a lot of wonderful life ahead, and there's a lot of great opportunity ahead for them. And if they feel like they're going down a path of, I thought I wanted to do this and I don't really love it, they can change. If they went right into the world of work and go, I don't see myself roofing for 30 years. You can go back to school. You can always change. You can always pivot. You can always step back and do something different. There's a path for everybody. And I really, the worst thing to me is somebody that ends up being 40, 50, that doesn't love what they do. I mean, I love what I do. I don't have that issue. Thank God. But I'm lucky. And I just wouldn't want anybody to feel like they have to settle. And so I think the role that we play as educators is we have to ensure that every student is as prepared as we can get them for college, career, life, and granted there's an aspect of that where it's a snapshot because, we don't know what things will look like in 20 years. But we can give skills and attributes that when a student decides, I want to go back to school, then I know that when they got that diploma, they can do that. And they'll be successful going right back to LBCC or going to Cal State Dominguez Hills, wherever it may be. Or if they decide, I want to just be a plain entrepreneur. I have a business idea and I think it will work. I really want to feel good about, you've got the skills that you can do that because we helped you along that journey. That to me is really, really critical, is our students and our seniors feeling that way. So that's what I would want them to know.
Solid answer. Solid.
So
and no
it
prep
started
work
cliche.
Yeah.
And it was.
And just because it started doesn't mean it's not true, right? That it's
Absolutely.
cliche because it's a widely shared thing. So second half of that question, and both answers are equally important. Now, taking off the administrator hat, and the deputy superintendent hat, and just as a grown man in the world, what's one thing that you wish you knew as a senior about how life works? And it might be the same answer, but trying to make it different. What's one thing that you wish you would have understood about life then that you couldn't have understood without having the experience that you've had?
I think it's one that I feel like I'm still learning, is that your family and your friends and your loved ones really matter and are really, really important. And the time that you spend with them is really critical. And while I love my job and I love what I do, and I've been blessed my entire career, I think it's really important, and the thing I'm always trying to get better at is to be more present for my wife, my loved ones, family, friends, because that to me is even more important than
anything.
Yeah. And so that's something.
You left out your dog though.
And my dog Quentin, who would love Evie, by the way. So they'd make a cute couple. But
Trying to match make my dog.
Yeah, well, Quentin's he'd be a little older match for her. But that is so important, and I'm not great at that. Yeah. And it's in part.
You're a workaholic?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, certainly.
Have you always been that way?
Yeah. And so that's something I wish that I kind of would have. I wish sometimes I could go back in time and share that, is that, hey, you do need to be able to have some balance here and separate and enjoy the part of life. Working, nobody's going to remember that on a Friday night I was in the office until 6 o'clock updating some board policy. No one's going to remember that, or, right. Hey, I sent some just amazing email at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday. Nobody's going to go, that was the email of the year. Right. That's never going to happen. And I wish that's something that I would have really recognized earlier. And it's something I continue to work on. And then on a side note, there's one other thing too. One thing that I regret and that I wish I had told my professional self: take more pictures. Take more pictures. You and I had a conversation about my dad and some of the influences I've had, and I know you had an experience where you went back and saw family in another part of the country. I've been involved in education type stuff since I was 18. I started coaching freshman basketball hoops at 18. And I regret that I don't have more keepsakes from that. I regret that I didn't take more pictures. I have great memories of teaching math and coaching basketball, and I don't have a lot of mementos from that. And it's something I really regret. And so I've been much better at that too, especially when I was a principal. I was taking pictures all the time. Social media has helped that. But I wish I would have told my prior self, hey, you need to kind of document this journey, because someday when you're 70, 80, 90, you're going to want to look back, and it'll be nice to see something other than what's in your mind's eye.
Yeah. I think that's one lesson my mom taught me in her passing. Because when she passed, I was only 16, and my mom did not like photos. She did not like them at all. So when she passed, I only have a handful, right? So that lesson stuck with me through that traumatic experience and kind of just not having those. So I got that base covered with my kids. but it's one of those things.
Absolutely.
But it's always the pendulum, man. It's we're always correcting what our parents, we feel like they did wrong, we do it the other way. So I'm sure my kids will probably grow up and be like, my dad took so many photos, so now with their kids they're like, we don't really take photos, we're just present. But it would just be a different way of doing it. But I when people would say that, because my wife used to say that, oh, you're bringing the camera, I want you to be present. And I get it. But what I've explained to her, and now we're on the same page with, because we'll watch the videos of our trips together. We'll see, she has all the pictures of the kids. She's come to understand. She's seen my light of that helps me be more present, and that helps me be able to reflect on those memories and have them forever. I'll just flip through my photos and I feel better. there's something about capturing the moment that for me as a filmmaker and somebody who's like really into content creation, like I love it, man. Like capturing as much of this as I can. And I don't think it robs me from any type of being present. Even right now, I mean, we got cameras going, but like, would we have had this conversation without, like, sometimes it's just an excuse to like have moments worth capturing.
Great point.
And, but I do it a lot, but yeah, but yeah, man, I 100% agree with you. But sometimes, and the reason I asked that question is because I think any advice that we would want us at 18 or 17, I wish you would just understand they're not going to, because it's only through lived experience do we really understand it. And there probably was somebody, when you were that age that gave you similar advice, and you probably, well, I got work to do, or I'm ambitious, I'm going to do. You would have discarded it anyway. But I think it's still worth saying, because I feel like that real life, hey, you're probably not going to follow this advice, but this is a real thing that I wish, you would hear and just consider, like, slowing it down, being present. Most won't. Those things are hard to accept and live by if you haven't experienced what it can do to you when you don't, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's solid advice, man.
Thank
you. All right. Well, dude, thank you for coming in, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I really do mean that, man. I think that you are an invaluable asset to this district. I think that the future is bright in BUSD. I think we're going to have a lot of opportunities for a lot of really great things, and we're already doing a lot of them. But thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for making Bellflower feel like home. For me, you and the other board members have made me feel that way from the very beginning. So I'll never forget.
Thank you. All right, let's go get our dogs married now.
Let's go. Yeah, that was cool. Thank you for that.